Hello, welcome to Sound and Fury Book Reviews. As usual, I am Tina. Today I'm doing a book review of Certain Dark Things by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This is a book that came out in 2016. I got it on audiobook. It's a paranormal thriller, urban fantasy. So I got this book as part of the Interstellar Book Club's read for September. They're doing the live show this week, I think, hosted by, also, I think, Coffee Over Apple, so you should check out her channel. I hope I get a chance to watch the live show because, normally it's on the weekend and I have some function or other. I know I'm so popular. As you know, from the chats on Discord, it seems that we have differing opinions on this book, so I'd be really curious to other people's opinions. So getting into it, first of all, the narrator, Ida Relusco, was great. The voices she put on for the characters suited them, and her voice was really nice to listen to, so I do recommend the audiobook in that regard. So, a clear love letter to vampire lore. Certain Dark Things takes Eastern European folklore and gives it a Mexican twist. What's it about? Welcome to Mexico City, an oasis in a sea of vampires. Domingo, a lonely garbage-collecting street kid, is just trying to survive its heavily policed streets when a jaded vampire on the run swoops into his life. Adel, the descendant of Aztec blood drinkers, is smart and beautiful and very dangerous. Domingo is mesmerized, as one would be. Adel needs to escape the city quickly to get far away from the rival narco-vampire clan relentlessly pursuing her. Her plan doesn't include Domingo, but little by little she finds herself warming up to the scrappy young man and his undeniable charm. As the trail of corpses stretches behind her, local cops and crime bosses start closing in. Vampires, humans, cops, and criminals collide in the dark streets of Mexico City. Adel and Domingo stand little chance at all of making it out alive before the city devours them all, but they are determined to try. If you love vampires, you will likely love this book. It's a vampire story through and through, and while Moreno Garcia puts her own spin on it, they are definitely the kind that you recognize from movies and books. I'm torn about this book because I'm not super into vampires. I think they're fun and I like the different versions of the Dracula legend, but I'm not like obsessed with vampires by any means. I like the Minotaur when it comes to my favorite monster. That poor thing. Anyway, because I'm not a fiend for vampires, this book has a lot of info dumping at the start where the narration explains the different types of vampires. I'd rather have gathered this, as we encounter the vampires, like throughout the story, perhaps not even knowing they were vampires at first, something like that. As especially with the audiobook, an info dump is kind of hard to remember all the info that it's imparting. I think I noticed in the chat in the Discord group that there were there's like an index at the back or some kind of a glossary they didn't have that with the audiobook. That would have been kind of cool actually. So maybe that was like an audiobook thing. I just found like trying to listen to it was kind of like droning on. I felt like I was listening to like a history book about vampires. I was like, okay. But once the book got going a bit more, I started to really enjoy it. But I found the ending did drag a bit, and there was a character who gets a point of view, but I wasn't sure it was like needed. While I liked that character, it was more because she was a type of character I tend to like, rather than I needed her in the story. She's tough and cranky and smart. I didn't think I knew her very well, though, either. So I just I'm not really sure why that person needed to be in the book in that way. I guess going into characters more, I thought Domingo's story was interesting. He seemed like a good kid, and though he was naive and kind of dumb at times, he was only 17, and he didn't have a ton of education to fall back on in that regard. So his naivete kind of made sense. It also made sense that he would latch on to not only a pretty girl, but someone who could get him out of his social situation. I kind of thought that's where the story was going, but it turns out to be kind of more of a love story, and that's an aspect of the story that I found kind of annoying. The love story did absolutely nothing for me. I didn't believe in it, I didn't ship it, and I thought it resolved in an unsatisfactory way. The story would have been more interesting to me if it was a story of how a young man became a Renfield, a vampire servant, or trusted. I guess it's kind of like a servant, but it's almost like a trusted advisor in a way, whatever, like a human protector, rather than some teenager with a crush that develops into like a love story. I think it would have been more interesting to see kind of that other kind of more platonic trajectory, or maybe like a vampires with benefit situation rather than oh, I love you forever kind of nonsense. I found Adel a little bit annoying. This could be tied into the love story aspect. The story did explain that she was a spoiled younger sibling that comes from a rich and powerful drug dealer family. So I don't know. I didn't dislike her. I just didn't really care about her. There's nothing about her to me that was compelling. I don't think she fell into the kind of manic pixie dream girl kind of thing, but I don't know, she just kind of felt flat to me. The main bad guy was also a bit hyperbolic. I liked Rodrigo and Bernardino as their stories were really interesting, and the dog was absolutely awesome. But it's funny because the people I wanted to know more about in the book, the kind of minor characters, got minimal time in the story versus the other characters that I didn't like as much, who turned out to be the main characters. It's almost like I needed a book about old vampires than young ones, maybe. The story itself is pretty standard, you know, more effort is put into the vampire lore than like the plot, but the action scenes were quick paced and well done. They were exciting. It seems like I'm critiquing the book a lot, but I guess it's just because it is a really good book. It just didn't hit me the right way. You know, I enjoyed it. I just didn't love it. I'm trying to explain why I didn't love it in case there's things about this that you think that you would love, because I think that's the author is a great author. I read her Mexican Gothic, and I really liked that. Anyway, and I'll read other books by her for sure. So if you do really love vampires, you should totally check this out, as the lore she creates is quite extensive and detailed, and it is quite interesting, the different kinds of vampires that she comes up with. But if you're not as into vampires, then you likely will feel how I do about it. You know, it's interesting, it's fun, but it's not like mind-blowingly good. Yeah, so that is my opinion on certain dark things. And let me know in the comments if you've read this, if you agree. Let me know in the comments who your favorite vampire is, because I'm curious. And you better not say that Dorcas from Twilight. Actually, you can say whatever you want, but yeah.